Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Roerig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about SheHulk, Attorney at Law, Episode 4, Is This Not Real Magic? And House of the Dragon, Episode 4, King of the Narrow Sea. We also have a few news stories to go over, a few trailers we're going to discuss, and some stuff to look forward to on the horizon. Let's kick things off with On Beat. On Beat is, of course, our news segment, and we're going to kick things off with David Harbour, set to star in Neill Blomkamp's Gran Turismo movie. So this is based on the Gran Turismo video game license, but the movie is itself a true story about a gamer who played Gran Turismo and used that to transition into a career as a pro racer.
Yeah, real gamer moment.
So it's like you get the biopic story of inspiration, and then it's also a video game movie.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Good to see David Harbour keeping jobs.
Yeah. I like David Harbour, so it's good to see him getting more work.
Our next story is that ToHo, the famous Japanese production company, is going to be making a series called House of Ninjas for Netflix. The story is about a family called the Tawara family, and they're supposedly the last ninja clan, and they're going to be returning to the profession due to Japan's greatest crisis after having previously abandoned it. So it's a family, they're ninjas, they stopped being ninjas for some reason, and now they're ninjas again. There's going to be espionage and family drama. So they're going to lean into what kind of ninjas actually were, which is what, like, early spies, more than like, ultimate warriors or something as they're often portrayed to be. That sounds interesting to me.
That sounds cool.
It all depends on kind of the tone they go with and the execution, though,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that sounds like something I'd be into. Now we have some trailers to discuss. We're kicking things off with The Peripheral coming to Amazon Prime. This is a series based on the well-known science fiction book, and it's going to be run by the Westworld duo of Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. So what did you think of this trailer?
It looked cool. It looked like a cool concept. Definitely curious to check it out. I thought it was a movie. So apparently not. It's a series.
It's a series based on the book by William Gibson.
But yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, gonna have some cyberpunk goodness in there and some cool visuals, and it looks pretty good. I kind of half trust Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. They can be really good, and then sometimes they can really let me down too.
Then it could also be a mess, see Westworld. But at least Westworld is a beautiful mess.
Yes, right? Yes. And so maybe The Peripheral will be a beautiful mess. It is based on a book, so I mean, they do have a blueprint to keep themselves grounded. So who knows? Next up, we had a trailer for The Fabelmans. This is Steven Spielberg's new movie, semi-autobiographical. I remember when I was a kid talking to somebody about Steven Spielberg, and he was telling me stories that he'd watched a documentary or an interview with him or something, and he was talking about how, when he would film movies, he would film them with his friends, and they would put sticks in the dirt, and then as people ran by and they'd hit the sticks, the dirt would fly up and it would look like gunshots and stuff, to make these fake war movies. So when I was watching this trailer, knowing it was a Steven Spielberg movie, and I saw that, I'm like, oh, so this is going to be semi-autobiographical.
Yeah.
Because that's clearly a story that I've heard about Spielberg before, And I looked it up, and it is indeed semi-autobiographical. I don't know to what extent, but it has to do with, a kid growing up Jewish in a post-World War II world and becoming obsessed with movies. So it sounds good to me. I mean, I like movies about filmmaking, and I like coming of age stories, and this seems to be both of those. So.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. In a similar vein, we got a trailer for a movie called 5/25/77. So Star Wars fans might recognize that as the release date of the first Star Wars movie. And this is kind of an interesting story. It's got a similar vibe to the Fabelmans in that it's like about a kid who becomes obsessed with filmmaking and he wants to become a filmmaker, and it has to do with his obsession with the movie Star Wars. What's interesting about this movie in particular is that they filmed this in like 2004 through to 2006. This has had like a really long, hard development where they filmed it, then they had to go back like 10 years later to film more scenes and finish off special effects shots. And then they had to try to do like an independent theatrical release for it. And they were able to do a premiere and a very, very limited run just to get like some attention upon it. And then they were going to try to do a full release, and then those plans fell through. And then as those plans started building up again, that's around when the pandemic hit. So everything went awry there. And it's just kind of a fascinating story about how long this movie's been in development. 18 years.
Yeah, that's crazy, but damn.
Yeah.
That's dedication. They stuck with it that long.
I mean, from the trailer, it looks pretty good. There are a few parts that look kind of cheesy, and then I started to realize that the cheesiness actually kind of fit. It felt like appropriate to the era.
Right, yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I actually kind of like that they did that. So again, semi-autobiographical. The director of it, it's kind of loosely based on his own life. It's directed by Patrick Reed Johnson, who I think you might know from, he did Angus. Do you ever see the movie Angus or Space Invaders?
No.
Baby's Day Out.
Jesus, no.
He was a writer and a producer on Dragonheart. How about that one?
I saw Dragonheart. Yes.
Yeah. He didn't direct that one, but he...
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I just think that's an interesting thing. And if you get the chance, check out the trailer for it. It's a pretty cool trailer. And then our last trailer is for season 2 of Chucky. I'm going to let you take this one away because I've seen this trailer, but I haven't seen season 1 of Chucky.
Okay. So this trailer was pretty cool. I watched the first season of Chucky. I really enjoyed it. I'm a fan of the Child's Play films. They're fun films. Basically, without spoiling anything, because it's kind of hard, because this kind of assumes you've seen the first season. But our main protagonists end up in a Catholic school of some sort, and Chucky follows them there. And hijinks ensue.
Murderous hijinks ensue.
Yeah, murderous hijinks ensue. Also, we saw Tiffany and Mika, and Glenn and Glenda are in the trailer. They return in this, which is Glenn and Glenda are Chucky and Tiffany's children.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was interesting. I like the one line of, our mother's a killer? Our mother's a lesbian?
Yeah.
Pretty funny. I need to just watch Chucky. I wanted to watch it when the first season was on, but just never got around to it. I need to try to carve out some time during spooky season, which is quickly
spooky
approaching.
Season is the perfect season. So
give me something to enjoy before Bayonetta 3 drops.
Yes, exactly.
And completely takes over my spooky season.
Oh, this is going to be a good spooky season.
Yeah, very good spooky season this year. That's it, though, for our On Beat segment. Now we're going to move on to On the Horizon. On the Horizon is, of course, where we talk about stuff that's coming up in the next week or so. And we're going to be starting things off on Monday, September 19th on NBC when the new Quantum Leap series drops.
Yes.
I am very curious. I don't have high expectations of just network TV in general right now.
Yeah, I don't have high expectations of a network TV, especially a network TV reboot of an older, beloved show. Those things have not gone too well, see Magnum PI or Hawaii
MacGyver.
5-0 or MacGyver.
Those were all CBS, I think.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I think so.
Well, at least this is NBC, so at least it's not a CBS show.
Right. It can be decent. I mean,
Quantum Leap's in my nostalgia strike zone, so, I liked that show as a kid. I remember all the plentiful boys.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
And all the calls out for Ziggy. I am definitely going to check it out. I don't know if I'll like it. I don't have high hopes about it, but I'm definitely going to check it out. Like, I have enough loyalty to the property to at least check it out.
Yeah, I think it's worth checking out, because it's hard to gauge fully by a short trailer. It looks like Quantum Leap. It's got the concept, right? It's just, and Quantum Leap was always about the characters and like how they were portrayed. Also, it was about the storylines. Mm-hmm. So if those things are in place, then it should be fine.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be fun to see what they end up doing. Quantum Leap did a lot of like real kind of fun, interesting stories. Our next show coming up is on Tuesday, September 20th, the next day on Hulu, Reboot, which is a comedy about a TV series that's being rebooted. It's got a pretty good cast. Keegan-Michael Key is leading it. Johnny Knoxville's in it. Judy Greer, Paul Reiser, who's had like a cool career resurgence recently with Stranger Things and The Boys just recently. And Rachel Bloom from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is in it as well. So it's got the right people. I remember watching the trailer for it and thinking it was okay looking, but it's got the right people to get me a little bit interested.
It's got a great cast. Like, fantastic cast. I just don't know if I like or care about the idea of a meta show about people making a sitcom reboot. I don't know. I'm feeling like I'm kind of like over meta comedy at this point. So like, I'm kind of like, I'm not too into the concept.
Yeah, the trailer didn't really do it for me, but the cast does. So I think I'm going to check it out based on that.
Fantastic cast. Like,
or at least pay attention to what people are saying about it at the very least. Next up, and this one's going to be really popular, on September 21st, coming to Disney Plus, is Andor. And we learned at D23 they're going to be dropping the first 3 episodes at once. So, yeah, I mean, the last trailer for it that they showed at D23 was spectacular. It's kind of got me a little bit interested in going back into Star Wars again.
The most interesting Star Wars thing in a while, so.
Yeah. I really kind of got burned out. Like, Mandalorian kind of drew me in. Then it started losing my attention. Book of Boba Fett completely lost me. Andor looks pretty good. And, I actually quite liked Rogue One, so if it's kind of along those lines, then that sounds kind of cool to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Then on Thursday, September 22nd, coming to PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, and the Switch, Square Enix's new strategy game, the Diofield Chronicles.
Yeah.
I have a demo for that on my Switch that I have not touched.
Which I don't know too much about that game, other than it's a Square Enix RPG, and it's on the Switch.
It's a strategy game, so it's interesting that, Square put out Triangle Strategy earlier this year, now they're putting out the Diofield Chronicles, and they're kind of both just, the Diofield Chronicles is more like of a fully developed 3D kind of game, whereas Triangle Strategy was one of the HD 2D games. But I don't know what it's going to be like. There is a demo out for it, so you can play it and see what you think about it. I think, as usual with Square, I believe that your progress carries over. So I don't know. I don't know if it's any good. I just haven't gotten around to playing it. My video gaming life is kind of tied up right now with Xenoblade.
Right, yeah.
And then lastly, on Friday, September 23rd, coming to theaters is Don't Worry, Darling, the movie in which all the people involved in it are just talking trash about each other and causing all sorts of controversies that we're not going to get into because that's not the kind of show we are. But do you have any interest in Don't Worry, Darling?
No, that movie looks horrible. It's got a horrible Rotten Tomatoes score. It's a terrible movie whose only interesting, or I shouldn't even say interesting, entertaining aspect is the dumb celebrity drama that came out of it.
Yeah.
Like the whole idea that Harry Styles spit on Chris Pine, that is better entertainment than the entire movie could ever hope to provide.
Yeah. And there's all sorts of stuff going on, other, stuff that we're not going to talk about, but.
Right. Yeah.
I remember seeing the first trailer for it, and it just kind of had this bit of a Stepford Wives kind of quality to it. Then all the controversy started kicking up, and you started hearing more about the actual movie, and it just, nothing really sounded interesting anymore.
Stepford Wives, but stupid.
Yeah.
Is like this movie.
That's what I've been hearing now, so it's kind of like losing interest.
Right, yeah.
But that is our On the Horizon segment, and that leaves us with our final segment, full spoilers. let's kick things off with She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, episode 4. Is this not real magic?
Yeah. I like
What did you think of this episode? I knew you were pretty down on it last week.
Yeah. So this is definitely better than last week. Still has issues. It still has issues with, like, characterization and making, like, interesting characters. Because so far, like, nobody outside of She-Hulk, Jennifer Walters herself, and, like, the big MCU guest star, in this case, Wong, are, like, ever interesting characters.
I don't know, man.
Cast
because,
sucks.
Madisynn kind of took over the internet.
Madisynn annoyed the shit out of me. I don't care if she's a meme.
I thought she was hilarious. She's supposed to be annoying, you know, like that's her character type. But I think they did a great job of her. And to me, we talked last week about how we kind of both wanted this to be like, basically like a live action Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law. Yeah. I think that's almost pretty much exactly what this episode was.
It is.
I mean, even like a character like Madisynn, I think some of what annoys you about her is just how undeveloped she is as like a full living, breathing character. But to me, that just makes her fit more as a cartoon character. Like she really just feels like a cartoon character come to life, you know?
Yeah. And so does, the magician here, Donnie Blaze, which by the way, nice reference. Right.
I thought that was funny, especially there's a part that just cracked me up where they're in the courtroom and it's him and then he's got his like older magician friend that he hangs out with. And like, he's like, is this not real magic? And he started doing things and then his like friends started doing tricks. And then you hear like, I think it was Jennifer said like, even his lawyer's a magician, and it cuts to him and he's doing magic tricks.
Oh yeah.
And I was like busting up, just the three of them just doing like stupid ass magic tricks. I thought it was really funny. I think the only thing that really didn't work for me in this episode, for me personally, was the hell portal at the end with all the creatures coming through, you know?
Oh, true.
I thought that wasn't
you're saying like the
interesting.
action sequence.
Yeah.
It was certainly a thing that happened in the episode.
That was like the one thing I think that didn't really do it for me, but I really dug. I've been wanting to see Horny MCU for a while since this trailer came out for this series, and we got to see Horny MCU and MCU with the dating app. And I love the scene right after, like she's in the middle of a date and she has to go and take care of this problem to help Wong. And then she comes back and just drops right on top of the guy, like over the couch. And I just thought that was really funny, like the way it was played up. So I dug that. And then it had like a little bit of a sad ending with her, you know, in her Jennifer form and being kind of blown off when she takes that form in the morning, you know, after she prepared breakfast for him. Yeah. I thought that was kind of sad, and, you know, it hit the right buttons for me. Like, I really dug this. I've been enjoying this series all along, though, and it sounds like you liked it a bit more, at least, than you did in the last episode.
It's heading in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
This needs to, like, I don't know. It just needs to be tighter with the comedy and stuff, with the jokes.
I also like that they had Titania return via lawsuit rather than showing up as like a villain for like a big action scene. Literally is just suing her for trademark infringement, which is that's the right way to do that. You know, that's the right way to bring that character back in. So I dig that. What did you think did you think that they were playing with fans, going back to like the whole like WandaVision fan theories with Madisynn making a deal with a demon?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like maybe she was talking about Mephisto. I didn't really think of that. Like when I watched it was
funny. They brought that up and it's like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But it was funny because she's like, I had to make a deal, but he told me I couldn't say anything.
She says it so matter-of-factly too. Like, like this is just what happened.
It's funny too because they had like there was a part where at the end of each episode they have like a bunch of like artwork and stuff, and some of it changes. And one of the artworks in this one that was spreading all over the internet was Madisynn signing a contract that was hanging from the mouth of a goat that had like a name tag around his neck that said Jake.
Yeah.
Which I just thought was really funny. But yeah, I am thoroughly enjoying it. I'm glad that you're liking a little bit more at least. And hopefully it continues down this road.
Yeah. Hopefully it continues to improve.
Mm-hmm. Got another episode coming up tonight from when we're recording this. So we'll see you soon. Let's move on, though, to House of the Dragon, episode 4, King of the Narrow Sea, that picks up after Damon bisected the crab feeder and returns several years down the line to King's Landing with a new haircut.
Yeah.
That's the main plot point of the episode. Damon has a haircut.
Yeah, Damon has a haircut, and everything is right with the world. This was actually the series finale.
Yes.
Because Damon getting the haircut was endgame.
Saved the realm.
Yes. It's interesting. He comes back to King's Landing and he greets his brother, and like there's a sense that like Damon is like maybe like a changed man. Like he came back from that war like completely changed. And it's like, oh, he's ready to behave and be part of the court.
I think he is a changed man, but in the opposite way.
Well, you see him and like he behaves for like an afternoon, then he goes right back to like his old ways again.
See, to me, what Damon was a trick in the first episode. And the idea was that you're watching it and he just comes across like he's just this mustache-twirling villain, as we've referred to him several times. And then you learn that he actually has more depth to him and he's not just some, you know, cheesy one-off villain that just twirls his mustache. There's more to him than that. He's a more interesting character. I think that the end of the last episode did change him, but kind of in the other direction. He went from being somebody who really cared about his brother, but was like putting on a show of being like disobedient and stuff and doing whatever he wanted and stuff, while actually like deep down caring about his family, to like, I think he just doesn't give a shit about his family anymore.
Right.
And now he's putting on a show to his brother that he's going to be doing the right thing, at least for part of the episode, but he just doesn't care anymore. He's just down for causing strife now. Right. Whereas before he was kind of like almost accidentally causing strife or causing strife by being provocative. Now he's like doing it with intention. At least that's what it seems like to me.
Right, yeah. He takes Renera into the streets at King's Landing. He ends up taking her into a brothel where they engage in some activities. Right?
So at least they don't have sex. They didn't go that
They
far.
don't have sex. Well, what happens is interesting, because the only reason that doesn't happen is because Renera gets excited and she starts taking the initiative, and then like Damon becomes impotent and he runs off. Damon no longer can perform in that situation, and he runs off out of, like, I don't know, shame or embarrassment or whatever.
It was like, it's a situation for him. Like, he is trying to play up, and this is again himself, he's trying to play up himself as this conniving, you know, devilish person. Yeah. And once, like, somebody else returns on him, as the princess did, he can't take it. Like, that's not what he was going for, you know, like, and so he's thrown off his game, and so he has to go and visit his, you know, girlfriend instead, or like another hooker instead.
I like, Renera doesn't, like, just go back to the castle and, like, sulk or cry over what happens. She just finds the next nearest man, which is Sir Christian Cole, and she seduces him instead.
And they fuck.
Yeah, they do. He breaks his oath.
I remember when I was watching the episode, because I was watching the episode with my mom, and I was saying, she had brought up the thing about, like, how long it takes to get the armor off. How the scene just kept showing how long it took, and I said, that's with intention. Because what's interesting about this scene is that he's breaking his oath, he's putting himself in an incredibly dangerous position doing this, and the longer it takes for him to be able to get out of his armor, the longer that takes, it shows that all of that time is him thinking about what he's about to do.
Yeah.
So it's not like something, you can't just call it like impassioned, like, oh, I got caught up in the spur of the moment. No, it took him like fucking 10 minutes to get out of that armor.
He had 10 minutes to contemplate it, and that entire time he was thinking, nah, I'm gonna effing do this. Like,
yeah. Like, you could see there was some kind of like uncertainty, and then he just went over that. He's like, oh, this is a problem. This could be an issue. I'm just gonna fucking do this anyways. So I really dug, like, I dig those kind of aspects of House of the Dragon, and they've done that in several scenes with Damon, and now in this scene that we're talking about, where, like, you get these kind of quiet moments that you're allowed to kind of read into it rather than just kind of have everything told to you. So.
Oh yeah, 100% for sure. So, I mean, but I'm positive that's gonna come back to bite Kristen in the ass.
Oh
sure.
Yeah, he's playing with fire now.
Yes, he is. Yes. Yeah, he's playing with fire. The other interesting thing, the fallout that comes from Renera and Damon's, little escapades is the fact that Renera had been followed by a spy working for Otto, right? And so what happens is the spy relays what he's seen, and he's a child. We learned in the original Game of Thrones that Varys used poor orphan children in King's Landing as spies. Mm. It seems like that idea did not originate with him.
Yeah. So Otto goes to the king and he says, "King, my name is Otto and I love to get blotto."
Yeah, he tells Viceroys, what he was told, the information he was told. And
he's trying to delicately thread that.
Yes.
Because you could see that it's a complex situation for Otto, because on one hand, this is information that he wants to tell the king because it advances his political position.
Yes.
That he's using. At the same time, he knows this is something he has to tell the king because he's observed this, and if he doesn't do it, then he's not respecting his duty. And then beyond that, on the other side of the equation, he knows that delivering this news to the king is incredibly risky.
Yes.
So he's balancing a lot in this moment where he's talking to the king about this, and it ends up paying off against him by the end of the episode.
Oh yeah, it ends up backfiring on him. Well, because what happens is, as he's delivering this information to the king, Alicent happens to overhear the conversation, and she confronts Renera herself over the allegations, and Renera lies to her. Not completely.
Kind of flubs the truth a bit.
It flubs the truth, bends it. Renera's technically correct when she said she didn't have sex with Damon, but
yeah, but then she
didn't do nothing.
Then we see Alicent saying she swore to me that she is still a virgin or something. It's like, that's not really what she said. She kind of led you in that direction, but that's not what she said, and that's not the truth.
Yeah, that's not the truth. But then again, they only know about Damon. Nobody knows about Kristen Cole, so yet.
Now we have the king in his confrontation with his daughter because of these machinations happening, all these political machinations that are driving him nuts. And what just got reported to him about his daughter, now he has to talk to his daughter, and his whole I'll let you decide your marriage partner thing from the last episode is kind of out the window now.
Right. Yeah. What's interesting is Renera kind of convinces Viceroys that he has to get rid of Otto.
Yeah. Well, what happens is, because they have that conversation where the king's like, "No, you're gonna marry Lord Corley's son."
Yes. Yeah, because the king was already getting frustrated with her because the episode opens where they're putting all these lords' potential consorts in front of her, and she's rejecting every one of them. There's an amusing point where there's this young boy, right? And there's this other lord standing at the side waiting to be seen by Rhaenyra. And
he's just trash talking him the whole time.
He's just trash talking him the whole time. And then she dismisses him, and as she decides she's done for the day, and she starts to leave, and as she's leaving, the fight breaks out between those two. And then the boy runs his sword through the guy who was shit talking him.
What was interesting is because you saw him run off like he was gonna fight, and it looked like he was in over his head. Yeah. And then you hear the stab. You don't see it. And it's oh shit, and then everyone kind of gasps, and you're like, oh shit, what happened? This kid's dead or something? And then it kind of pans around, and you see oh no, the kid's sitting there holding the sword. The guy's dead,
Yeah.
And I kind of like that scene, the way that played out. That was kind of cool. That was old school Game of Thrones. So now, because Rhaenyra wasn't, or Renera, I guess there's no S there.
Oh yeah, Rhaenyra. Yeah, never mind.
You get confused with all these names. I still don't have them down yet. Rhaenyra has been not really taking it seriously, the prospect of choosing her husband. We've had another time skip, another 2 years I think have gone by.
Yeah. So Viserys is already frustrated that she hasn't chosen a husband. And now, he hears about this tryst with Damon, and he is completely incensed to the point where, his patience has run out. And he's like, you know what? I've picked a match for you. Viserys, he's been convinced that he needs to repair his relationship with the sea snake, right?
Well, because there's stories going around about the sea snake marrying his daughter that he was offered to one of the heads of the Iron Bank of Bravos, I think. And that's going to create like a very difficult political situation for the king if that happens. And so he's advised that he needs to marry his daughter off to the sea snake's son to kind of prevent that from happening, or prevent like a problem from that happening.
Yeah. So Viserys makes a demand to her, like, he commands her as king that she is going to marry the sea snake's son, and that's the end of it.
Mm-hmm. And she turns to him and basically throws everything back in his face. And it all comes back to basically reminding him that, yeah, this is kind of all comes back to his fault in the first place.
Yes.
When that's put on him, she looks at him like dead serious and says, if you're going to expect me to do the job of the princess in doing this, then you should at least do your job as a king and get rid of the rat that's on your council.
Yeah.
Talking about Otto Hightower.
Yeah, Otto. Another interesting thing is, like, there's also a scene between Viserys and Damon where Viserys is confronting Damon over the allegations, and Damon doesn't deny anything, but Damon, like, makes this plea to Viserys to let me marry Renera.
Mm-hmm.
And Viserys is like having none of that.
Viserys says, he says something along the lines of, to paraphrase him, he says something along the lines of, like, you don't want for my daughter, you want my throne.
Yeah.
You know, and like, he sees clearly, as bad as the king is, it's pretty obvious at that point what's going on, you know? And
right.
You can at least see that, if he's not blind to everything else. He does let Otto go, as we had mentioned, which there's a whole powerful scene in that.
That's a powerful scene. Well, we find out that Viserys is not as, like, stupid as we took him for, because, like, he confronts Otto, and he says, like, your machinations were plain on your face, you know, which tells me, like, Well, see, the thing is, the reason that Viserys is weak to Otto is because Otto basically raised him and taught him how to be a king. Yeah. He's been like his instructor and his aide since he was a child. Otto has been hand for two kings, like, prior to Viserys, you know, like, he was the hand of, like, Viserys' grandfather.
Yeah, he had a hand in raising him.
Yeah.
So it comes down to, like, that being this relationship he's had with him, and that he kind of says that he's known that Otto has put his own interest first, and that it's reached the point where he can no longer deny it. It's not that, like, Otto finally crossed the line. It's that he can no longer deny that Otto's crossed the line.
Right, yeah.
I also like the way it's played off that Otto actually is a really good hand of the king. He's really good in his position, and that the king does actually really owe him a lot.
Right,
but that he still can't trust his council anymore.
Yeah, he still has designs for the throne, you know, like, he still has, his interest is aligned with making Aegon the heir to the throne.
Mm-hmm.
That is his interest, you know, and obviously, like, it's already been decided by the king that Renera is the heir to the throne and not Aegon, but, you know, that's not a reality Otto is accepting.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been pushing his daughter Alicent to talk Viserys into changing his mind.
I think the most interesting thing in this episode, and it's one of those between the lines things, it's something you can see coming rather than something that's actually happened. And that's that they're setting up something very bitter between the princess and her friend, the queen.
Well, yeah, you see, like, their friendship is already fractured at this point. It was fractured when Viserys married her.
Mm-hmm.
She became, you know, Rhaenyra's mom, stepmom, as well as her best friend. You know, we saw last episode, you know, how cold Rhaenyra was to her.
Yeah, but what I think is so interesting in this episode is that they went towards repairing that relationship in this episode, but at the same time, you're creating really clear divides in the house lines between the Targaryens and the Hightowers based on Otto's actions. And, like, now, Alicent trying to manage the fact that she's following her father's orders and also trying to service the queen and be loyal to her king and to try to preserve her friendship with the princess. And now you have the princess straight up getting Otto fired from his position. And you can see that something's gonna brew between them. And it's gonna go from being a fractured relationship to something very bitter, it feels like to me. Like, they're not enemies right now. Like, their relationship is fractured, but they're not enemies. But I think fairly soon they will be.
Yeah, I think so.
Very hostile enemies, you know? So I think that's one of the more interesting things in this episode is that, like, the groundwork was laid out for that. And, you can see it coming now, even though it hasn't explicitly happened. So yeah, continues to be good. I'm quite enjoying the show.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the show. It's one of the best shows on TV right now, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm quite enjoying it, and it's turning out well. So we'll continue to be talking about it as we will with She-Hulk next week. So stay tuned for that. You can follow me on Twitter. I am at Tyson Gifford. Will is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our Facebook page, our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to any of the podcast container stories on our website, you should find all the links to our Facebook page and our Twitter feeds and everything else. As I mentioned, our Twitters are at Tyson Gifford, at Voxel Hero. That is the best way to reach us if you want to get a comment to us, a question that you want us to address on the air, so to speak. So until then, thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.